Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to Lynn Cullen Show. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen. Welcome to Lynn Cullen. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Callers from the Cullen Studio web interface.
Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah. Now your frazzled host, Lynn Cullen. I'm calling on my landline. Something screwed up with my damn phone, and I'm blaming my sister. Susan sent me an iPad, my birthday. Susan and my mom. And I'm notoriously incapable of, dealing with this goddamn technology. And so I have been on Apple Help for the last 3 days. No sooner did they help me get this up and running, my iPad, but then something went wrong with my iPhone. And then something went wrong with my MacBook Air. So fiddling with one of my devices screwed up another device, which then screwed up a third device. And I'll be goddamned if I am going to call back again. It's humiliating. I get to the point where I can't even describe to them what my problem is. What am I going to say to them if I call again today? Well, now I don't know what the problem is. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And by the way, speaking of overwhelmed, I have something that I wasn't going to tell you today, but it sure feels like a good time. Next week will be my last week for a while. I'm going to take a month off. Just a month. And it's because I am not in a good place. I am not alone in this. I know. I'm really, in many ways, struggling. And in order for me to get my act together, I've just sort of decided I need to go away. And because it's me, I'm not going to you think I'm going to some lovely warm place. I am not. I'm going off to sort of a cabin in the woods. I'm going to be away and just with myself, which in a way has been part of the problem because I'm trying. Okay. So I do want to let you know, my nerves are almost shot. My anxiety level is ridiculous. And I got to take care of myself because I'm an old lady. I was talking to my mom last night and, she can't get over the fact that she's almost 100. And she was saying that she couldn't remember something. Oh, she was saying that my brother had told her that she shouldn't drive anymore. And she said, and I know I can drive. And I am just someday, if I need to, I am getting in the car, driving to the drugstore to get my medication. Barely takes any. I don't even know what she's talking about. And I said, Mom, I have little doubt that you could do that. But, if you were to do a survey of how many 99-year-olds are on the road right now driving, I don't think you'd come up with much. And she said, I'm not 99, I'm 99 and a half. So she's really chugging to get to that 100. She sees that as something to go for. Because I said, you sound like a 3-year-old who says, when you ask her age, I'm 3 and a half, because the 3-year-old can't wait to get to 4. And at some point, most of us stop doing those fractions because we can wait to get to the next level. So I got to tell you guys, I am sitting here at my dining room table with 3 Mac devices scattered around. They're all black at this point. There's no screen up, so I can't. And I don't even know what screen to try to use. Nothing. It all feels foreign to me now. After the geniuses at Apple have had their way with me. Anyway, so here we are. I'm going to try. I'm holding my landline. My headset not working. But I do have my Gmail up, so I should be able to. Although it's, oh guys, okay. I don't know how long I'm going to last today. I just feel out of sorts, totally. Anyway, let's try to talk about something. Although, you know what? I'm sorry. I just have okay. What was it just last week that I talked about the NFL and its horrific record on hiring of black coaches? I was ahead of this story. And I pointed out that since the Rooney Rule took effect, it has had no impact at all. None. There were 3 black head coaches when the Rooney Rule went into effect. There's 1 now. And I see the NFL trying to push that, well, it's not just blacks. We now have a Muslim head coach. That's not the point, you jerks. I guess the Jets coach is Muslim. Who cares? That's not the issue. And then they trot out any totally white-skinned Hispanic. That's not the issue. Damn it. So I have to say, I don't know Brian Flores. I love him. I love him for his courage. And you can see all the disbelief surrounding his Don Quixote-esque taking on the NFL, because everybody knows that he's now a pariah. That my God, all Colin Kaepernick did was kneel on a knee, one knee, and that was the end of him. This guy is suing him and taking the elephant in the room and trotting it out. And he will never be forgiven for that. Ever, ever. No team would touch him. And he knows that. He's got to know it. So I think what we're looking at here is a man of character. A man of courage. And for him, maybe principle is more important than money, 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 which is what drives most people, it seems. So I'm totally with this guy. Suing what? The NFL. He's suing all of its teams. He's and he's done. The NFL is about as huge a behemoth. It's like, suing Amazon. It's like suing something so big, and on top of it, causing them bad publicity. He's doing it right before the Super Bowl so that it'll have to be talked about. But since that's an NFL-owned event, huge event in terms of how many people are in the audience, that it'll cause a lot of discomfort to the NFL. But don't think they're going to be honest. I wouldn't expect that many other coaches are going to join him. He filed it as a class action suit because it is. There is a class of people who the NFL quite clearly has a lot of difficulty giving head coaching jobs to. And that class is people with black skin. Not Muslims. It's not white Hispanics. It is black people. And when you look at the makeup of the teams they coach, haven't we been here before? Used to be you couldn't have a black quarterback. Remember that? Well, they weren't, didn't have they were athletically gifted, but not quite have the acumen, the intellect required for the job. Bullshit. And anything the NFL is saying now about why there aren't any head coaches is also bullshit that are black, other than Mike Tomlin. It's bullshit because it's all about racism. White guys, those are the owners, hire white guys. They even hire white guys who are not as qualified as the black guys they don't hire. And they fire black coaches who have much better records than white coaches who retain their jobs. And there's no other way of parsing it. Racism. That's all it is. My God. He said, I may be risking coaching the game that I love. Huh. He knows he is, and that has done so much for my family and me. My sincere hope is that by standing up against systemic racism in the NFL, others will join me. Oh, dream on, you good man. Dream on. And legal experts say that he doesn't have much of a chance, even if it was a level playing field, because the way these laws work is he would literally have to prove that race was specifically if not the factor in his being turned down for the Giants job or for any other job. And while you might know that's it, while we all suspect it's it because of the pattern that is sitting there, that's the elephant. But proving it, that's a toughie. That's a toughie. I mean, my God, 70% almost of the players are black. There's one black head coach, Mike Tomlin, who, by the way, has, I guess, he does have a stellar win-loss record. But even Mike Tomlin, with his stellar win-loss record, it's equivalent to Bill Cowher's. It's almost exactly. You see wins, losses, playoffs, Super Bowls, all that stuff. Tomlin, Cowher, it's the same. And yet to listen to the, not racist fans here in Pittsburgh, Tomlin can't hold a candle to Cowher. I don't remember the fans calling for Cowher's dismissal constantly, but you do see that with Tomlin. It's race. It's race. It's race. All right. And I'm sorry, I just don't have any of my stuff here. Speaking of race, let me just move on to another racial story that's gotten a lot of attention, and that's the suspension for 2 weeks of Whoopi Goldberg from, what is it, The View? Is that what it's called? A show I've never watched. And she said some things rather insistently, apparently, about the Holocaust, which were considered so outrageous that, even though she has profusely apologized now, they still said, I think you better stay away for 2 weeks. She apparently was saying that the Holocaust was not about race. It was white people killing other white people. So I think she said, let me see. These are two groups of white people. This is white people doing it to white people. So you're all going to have to fight amongst yourselves. Suggesting that, she is black, has no skin in this game. No pun intended. The remark is so ridiculous that what did she think it was about? She thought it was it was a religious dispute? What? Is that what it was? I don't think so. It was an attempt to annihilate an entire race of people. Not a religion. Not a religion. They went after Jews who never been in a synagogue. They weren't going for... It had nothing to do with religion. It had to do with a people. A people. It's always been difficult to explain that Jews are, yes, people who belong to a religion, but many, many, many don't necessarily follow it, but they're born into it, and what the Nazis were about was purification. That was their whole thing. They wanted to purify their motherland. And what was the adulteration? Well, it was a number of groups, but the biggest adulteration, as Nazis saw it, were the Jews. And it had nothing to do with their religion. It had to do with the fact that they were considered a race that was tarnishing the white folks, the good white Germans, the Aryans. So how could Whoopi say such a thing when quite clearly the Germans didn't see Jews as white people. They specifically crafted laws targeting the Jew. They weren't targeting fellow whites. They were targeting an entire class of people that they believed to be an inferior race that, as I said, was an abomination. It's also always nice to have a scapegoat. And this is, I don't feel particularly eloquent today, but I do have to say that this plays out constantly. On the left, if you ask any lefty to name marginalized groups or minority groups subject to discrimination, a lefty will never name a Jew. They will not say Jews, because lefties agree with Whoopi. They see Jews as white. And they not only see Jews as white, they see Jews as super white, because they buy into the tropes of Jews having so much power. The anti-Semitism that comes from the left makes me sick to my stomach. I'm used to it coming from the right. And this refusal to see Jews. I'll tell you who, in this regard, when Bowers, the murderer, the mass murderer that went into Tree of Life and killed all those Jews, was he going in to kill fellow white people? Hardly. He did not. Ask him. He'll tell you, Jews, they're not white. The reality is that Jews are white when people want them to be white. That's the left. And Jews are an adulteration. Why does that word not seem right? What am I getting wrong with that word? This is why I need a break, guys. My brain is fried. The right-wingers, the fascists, see Jews not as white, but as vermin. Vermin. Okay? But the left very happily dismisses anti-Semitism and Jewish vulnerability, because all they are willing to see is what looks like, a pretty prosperous bunch of white people. Until they don't see them that way. Here's a guy who had a good little bit. I tweeted it out. I hope you'll listen to him. He's actually a comedian in Britain. But he does bits about anti-Semitism. And he said, it has really nothing to do with religion. And this is where you're wrong if you're thinking that that's the animus directed to Jews, that it's about the way we worship. Nothing to do with it. He says, if you are a race, an ethnicity, I think it's more that, an ethnicity, as Jews are, that have suffered persecution over centuries and centuries and centuries, principally because that happens to be who you are. This ethnicity, this Jew, happens to be who your parents are, happens to be who your ancestors are. That's racism. There's no other word for it. Yeah, we're white until we ain't. And there's Whoopi Goldberg, black, with a Jewish name, Goldberg, who says that she identifies as Jewish. How the hell does she identify as Jewish? Can somebody tell me that? I don't think she's in any way a Jew, is she? I think she took Goldberg as a stage name as kind of a joke. This black woman named Goldberg. Although there are black Jews, obviously. There's black Jews in my congregation. I mean, she was... I don't even know that story. Here, I'm seeing somebody. Gigi writes, Whoopi attempted to redeem her ridiculous remarks on Colbert's show the other night, and she dug herself a bigger hole. She said something along the lines of, you can't tell who's Jewish by looking at them, so it can't be racism. It was white on white. That's not racism. Wait a minute. So she was repeating the same thing? I thought she was going, this is after she apologized? So she didn't get it. Colbert was pretty gentle with her. I was surprised by his quiet refutation of her remarks. Anyway, she certainly didn't help herself. It was offensive. I'll tell you, when the Jew haters need to tell who a Jew is, they figure it out. Jews will tell you. They figure it out. And we now in this country have Jews who are clearly Jews being attacked, right? So this is where the Orthodox bear most of the burden of physical anti-Semitic attacks because, they dress differently. They look like a Jew. Most Jews, who knows, I guess. Okay. Anyway, Bob's writes, there's an outcry to have President Biden and Vice President Harris not attend next year's National Prayer Breakfast. Why? After they attended this morning. Why? An outcry from whom? I'm so sick of it all. Guys, this is why I gotta go away. I just gotta go away. I can't take it anymore. The only good news today is Zucker, CNN, out. He'll pop up someplace else. He's a wunderkind in the industry. A Jew, by the way, those Jews do control the media. And I have to say, and I have said this before, I said it years ago, that I hold him culpable, he and others, for the ascendancy of Donald Trump. If you take Jeff Zucker, I don't know if he says Zucker or Zucker. We had Zuckers in Green Bay when I grew up. They said Zucker. But I have since encountered Zuckers who say Zucker. So I don't know how he pronounces it. But Donald, if you take Zucker out of the story of how Donald Trump got into the White House, I don't know that he gets into the White House. I don't know how he does. because it is Zucker who made Donald Trump a star, a reality TV star, year after year after year, who developed a following of admirers who bought into this pretend Donald Trump on The Apprentice. That was his call. He saw a star. And so after getting that level of recognition and being able to build the brand that was Trump, he took off. And he moved that brand into the political arena. And once he'd moved the brand in the political arena, Zucker, who now had decamped from NBC, where he had hired Donald Trump for The Apprentice, and he'd gone to CNN. And so when Donald showed up on the political scene, Zucker, who always knew that Donald Trump was great for attracting eyeballs, couldn't keep away. And it was Zucker who covered every rally. Every time Donald Trump walked into public view, CNN would cut away and carry that live. This is before he was president. This is what helped make him president. He got more free advertising from CNN, even as, and here's the cynical dance that went on between the two. Zucker did not like Trump's politics, but he sure liked the crowds he attracted and the money that came in to CNN as a result. Ratings going sky high. And so Zucker made a deal with the devil. He even allowed Trump, who knew damn well CNN was helping him, actually cast CNN as a villain. Remember how Trump used to point out CNN reporters and photographers and camera people in some of his rallies, and they would be menaced by Trump's supporters? So Zucker saw Trump as this cash cow, the country be damned. And Trump saw Zucker and CNN as a wonderful opportunity to do. And they played this game that advantaged them both at the expense of America's democracy. So Zucker, F him. He apparently was a beloved figure on the news side there. They're all beside themselves that Jeff has gone. And here's Allison Camerata. This is an incredible loss. These are two consenting adults who are both executives. That they can't have a private relationship feels wrong. Well, Allison, you're a reporter. You know that, yes, they could have. He just needed to, I guess, according to the rules, acknowledge it. What's particularly delicious about all of this is that it's Cuomo who took him down. He fired Cuomo, Andrew, another guy who he had discovered and built up. These folks use each other until they're not of any use anymore, and then they turn right on them. And he had to let Cuomo, he hung on to Cuomo long after he should have. And then when he fired him, Cuomo was astonished. And Cuomo since is vengeful. And he immediately hired the big lawyer. Don't ask me his name. And those lawyers were the ones in asking questions of CNN regarding Cuomo's firing about the relationship that the guy who fired him seemed to have with a coworker. And so it came from Cuomo to his lawyers, the lawyers to Zucker, and it all got to be too much. So Zucker took Cuomo down, and Cuomo turns around and takes Zucker down. A plague on all their houses, these repulsive, egomaniacal titans of communications. The only other interesting thing to me in this story is that the woman involved, the woman who is also a high executive at CNN and has been there for decades, she is staying on. And I can't tell you the last time I heard that in a relationship of two people at work, male, female, that the female retains the job and the male goes down. That's unheard of, I think. So, don't cry for Jeff Zucker. He'll be just fine. Don't cry for Andrew Cuomo. He'll be just fine. Don't cry for Whoopi. She'll be just fine. If you want to cry for somebody, cry for Brian Flores, who spent his whole life proving that he could be a head coach in the NFL. And he ain't going to be anymore. Okay. That's all I got. Well, that's not totally all I got. Barbara sent me something that I really liked. This is a quote that from Twitter, but it's about the book banning we're getting into, book burning coming up shortly. It's a playbook, unintended, that has been used by autocrats, would-be autocrats, fascists in training for forever. You first got to get control of history. You got to rewrite it. Then you got to burn all the books that make the history that you've decided is the real history a little problematic. And so here we go. And I thought this was wonderful. When we ban books in schools, before we ban guns, we admit we are more afraid of our children learning than we are of them dying. I think that's pretty damn right on. And then there's this that I just wanted to share with you because, again, when we live in this country, as we do, we tend to think that the way things work here are the way things work. But if you know people from other countries or you travel, you know that that's not necessarily so. And in a lot of other countries, life is a lot better for workers, for women, for families, for the poor, and I could go on and on. And I just want to point out that I saw this, it's just a little item, but that something out of Belgium, okay? And a new law has been passed in Belgium. Like, this would really pass here. Where if you work for the government there, you can no longer be required to answer your phone or to answer emails or tweets from your employer, the government, after you leave work. It's called the right to disconnect law. Now, in America, no worker has the right to disconnect, as we all know. And since we've been working from home, it becomes even more so. But this is something that already exists in great measure in the private sector as well. And this is a growing trend throughout Europe. Portugal has a set of laws prohibiting employers, any employer, from contacting workers after hours. And it applies to companies with any company over 10 employees. Spain, Greece, Ireland have considered or enacted similar measures. I just want you to know that the way we do stuff here is often less humane and crueler. We are a cruel country who believes in punishing the poor, not helping them. It's really hard. Okay. I want to point something out that I haven't had an opportunity to, and that's this thing that Mark Cuban has done, my favorite billionaire. It sure ain't Elon Musk. Did you hear what Elon Musk has? No, this one's Jeff Bezos. Elon Musk is a horror. He almost makes Jeff Bezos look good. Musk is such a horror. But Bezos, I guess, is having himself built the largest sailing yacht in the world. 3-masted, huge thing being built somewhere in the Netherlands. And it's so huge that it can't get out of where it's being built onto the sea unless the Dutch literally take apart a bridge that it wouldn't fit under. And understand, Bezos said, I'm just asking for you to take that bridge apart so we can get my boat out. But of course, I will pay for it. So, I mean, he is saying, I will, because when you're a billionaire, you can do that. I will pay. And as far as I understand, this bridge is not really a working bridge. It is a historic kind of monument that still stands near the harbor. And, so billionaires get to do what billionaires get to do. And, by the way, the yacht is costing more than $500 million. But, hey, what's pocket change. And so it was really heartening to see this Mark Cuban story about him launching this online pharmacy. And I'm looking at a story now from Forbes magazine. And what he's doing, and he's acting as a wholesaler pretty much, and he doesn't take insurance. But the fact is, through his online pharmacy, you can get over 100 generic drugs, many of them ones you take, at a much, much lesser price. Let me see if I can find. He's going to negotiate prices, something our government doesn't do. Americans, again, we pay more for our drugs than absolutely anybody else in the world. But the Mark Cuban Cost Plus drug company negotiates directly with the drug manufacturers and pharmacies. And, for instance, here's a drug I take, my cholesterol med, atorvastatin, which is the generic of Lipitor. The generic costs $55. You know what Mark Cuban's drug company is charging? $3.60. Here's another one, a high blood pressure prescription. I don't know what it is. Runs around $50. You go to his online pharmacy, it's $3.30. Now, you have to get your doc to write another prescription, and that has to go to Cuban. So, yeah, I'm just saying that in case you hadn't heard that. And I wish I could give you the exact address of how to get to the site, but it's up and it's running, and he's just taking cash. But at those, you know, you can afford that. Here's a leukemia treatment. I'm just going to give you a leukemia treatment that the retail price is $9,600 per month. His pharmacy, $47 per month. A colitis drug, $940 a month, $32 from him. Now, there are prices in between often, but he beats out the lowest prices that are available by a lot. By a lot. So, this, it would seem, would be a godsend to a lot of people. And, and he's a billionaire, nowhere near the billionaire that those big guy billionaires are. He's just a little billionaire. And this is what he has chosen to do. And here it is. I'm sorry. costplusdrugs.com. Okay? costplusdrugs.com. There it is. So go for it. I mean, for some of you, I even with your insurance and everything, you'll pay less. Unbelievable. And every effort to have our Congress address this issue and allow Medicare and Medicaid to negotiate directly the prices with pharmaceutical companies never, ever works. You know why? Because the pharmaceutical companies own too many members of Congress. They buy them. They bought Kristen Sinema. Whoo! They buy them on both sides of the aisle. Incredible. Ruth is telling me they're selling T-shirts that say, what, that shows the bridge collapse? And, here it is. Shows the bridge collapse. Oh, it shows the truck. It's a truck. The bus. Excuse me. See what I mean? The bus up in the air. and hanging by the crane. And then the bus is saying, it has a little balloon. The bus is saying, "What the frick?" That's sort of cute. Anyway, it turns out that the profits for this T-shirt will go to support people who were injured in the collapse. So there you have it. That's sort of cute. It's so American. And the other funny thing, the city creating that area where you could go and gawk and gape at the bridge, the observation area, they closed it. It was open for what, 3-4 days? Is that it? Damn, I should have gotten over there. They done closed it, as they should. I mean, they got work to do there. There shouldn't be a bunch of people, around. And the funniest thing was that the city actually made a sign. I mean, a sign on metal saying observation area this way. They'd erected a substantial sign showing people where it was, and it was only open for what? A few days. Don't ask me what that says. I don't know. So, I failed to note the passing of Jerry Weber, the owner of Jerry's Records in Squirrel Hill. This was a real beloved figure among folks who love vinyl and records, and he was, and I love vinyl and records, but I have to say I never went in there. So I have very little to say, but I know he was adored. And as the obit for him says, no one ever accused Jerry Weber of being a shrewd businessman. He wasn't in it for the money, God bless him. He loved records so much. He always bought more than he needed, and he sold them far below what he could have gotten. So, I mean, I think even when people like musicians and stuff would come to town, some of them would stop by to see him. Here it says here, never mind. So he had sold his collection, I believe, a few years ago. But the guy who bought it maintained the store name because you wouldn't get rid of that name. It was known. So I wanted to note that because I know he was a great and beloved character. And I think that's it. Hey, this weird weather, I'm sure hoping this rain, before it starts freezing up again, manages to melt a lot of the stuff that some of our friends and neighbors have yet to shovel off their sidewalks, making it a very lethal thing to walk your dog, for instance. Because when the temperature drops again, man, it's all going to freeze up. We're not getting much of this storm. I think other people are really getting hammered, and we're lucking out on this one. Hey, there was a little piece that I saw about how many of the weather people, the meteorologists on our local news, are actually meteorologists. And I thought now they all were. I thought that, I started in the business 50 years ago as a weekend weather girl. And God knows I didn't have a meteorology degree. I didn't know anything about weather. And a lot of the people who did weather in the early days knew nothing about the weather. But now they sure seem to, right? And some of them do. I know Joe DiNardo, for instance, he had a degree in meteorology. He really knew it. But there's all these meteorologists on the air now. I mean, it seems like every station has like 3 of them or 4 of them. And somebody had asked the question, I think of Rob Owen, do they actually have like that degree? And it turns out some do, very few. What they all have is a degree that I didn't even know existed. And from what I could tell, it just comes from one school. They all these guys, and there must be all over this country, all the TV meteorologists practically go to one school in Mississippi. It's like Mississippi State something that has a specific program in television weather reporting. So I'm sure they get some meteorology, but what they're really getting is learning how to be television meteorologists, how to work all those gizmos, how to make an oncoming storm scary as hell. So they're literally schooled in how to do what they do, which is equal parts entertainment. It's not equal parts, less science, a little science, entertainment, and the ability to sell your product. So there's a school. I didn't know that. And when he looked into what all these guys, where'd they go to school, where'd they get their credentials, they all went to the same school. Doesn't matter if they're at which station they're at. So I got to believe that that's true all over the country. There's this one school. If you want to be a TV weather person, there's only one place to go, apparently. I mean, that's what I garnered. Now, maybe there's another one. Seems like a good idea for the school. They're coming in. Who wouldn't want to be a TV meteorologist? The drama. Anyway, okay. I think that's it. I think I've done my time. And I'm sorry about the totally screwed up beginning. I don't know what's wrong, and I'll be damned if I'm going to spend another day feeling like a fool on Apple Help. So I'm glad it's Thursday, and I can just, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Goodbye. Stay safe. Don't slip. Stay dry. Oh, shut up, Cullen. Goodbye. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.